Hi, and welcome to the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection's new show called Better Boating in Connecticut. Each month, we'll bring you new and exciting information about clean and safe boating. I'm your host, Wendy Flynn, and today we just want to give an overview of what the Bureau of Outdoor Recreation within the DEEP does. Today with me, I have Colonel Kyle Overturf, Bureau Chief Mike Lambert, and Boating Law Administrator Eleanor Mariani. Thank you all for joining me. So I just want to start with going over our mission, what we all do. So Mike, do you want to start?
Sure. The Bureau of Outdoor Recreation is responsible for the conservation and management of statewide recreation lands and resources for public use. And in Connecticut, those lands and resources consist of state parks, state forests, and boating access areas or state boat launches. Our primary goal in the Bureau is to provide public use and access that is consistent with the protection of the state's natural resources. The Bureau is part of the Environmental Conservation Branch of the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection and includes three distinct divisions, two of which we'll learn more about today: the Boating Division and Environmental Conservation Police Division. And the third is the State Parks and Public Outreach Division that includes management of all of our state parks. And each one of these divisions has a unique mission that supports the public's use of Connecticut's outdoor recreation resources.
Okay, great, thank you. Eleanor, do you want to give a little overview of what boating does?
Sure. So in the boating division, we want to make sure that that the boaters of Connecticut have places to launch their boats. So we have 118 state boat launches for them to do that. One of the other things that is critical to our mission is making sure that we reduce boating fatalities and accidents on our waters. And then we also want to empower the boaters to make sound environmental choices when they're out there boating. We do a couple of things. As I mentioned, we have the 118 boat launches so people can get to the water. We also have a boating infrastructure program that's funded by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and that provides access to transient boaters on coastal Long Island Sound so that they can get to shore, generally speaking. And then also we provide money, again, through U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to do the boat launches. That's where we get the money for that. And then we also get money for the Clean Vessel Act. And that allows boaters to find places to pump out and remove boat sewage. So combined, that's kind of in a nutshell what our mission is.
Sounds like a lot of work. Thank you. Colonel?
The mission of the Environmental Conservation Police is natural resource protection and public safety through education, outreach, and enforcement. The officers of our division support all the other programs within the agency. So we're doing enforcement for inland and marine and commercial and marine fisheries, doing hunting enforcement, doing traditional law enforcement and public safety in Connecticut state parks and forests. We assist with the enforcement for the Department of Agricultural Shellfish Program. So we have a very diverse and unique enforcement program within the division. We support hunting enforcement through teaching the Connecticut the Conservation Education Environmental Safety Program. We assist the boating division not only through patrols, but our officers assist with the boating education program also.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So, Eleanor, when I had introduced you, I said you were a boating law administrator. What exactly does that do?
Okay, so in addition to being the director for the boating division, I also am the boating law administrator. And what that does is we have, through the Coast Guard, we work really closely with the Coast Guard to make sure that our waters are safe. And one of the things that the Coast Guard relies upon the states for is inland waters. So we get a grant from the Coast Guard to help us with recreational boating safety. And one of the things that the boating law administrator does is to make sure that we comply with all the requirements. We have to register a certain number of boats. We have to make sure that we have a memorandum with the local Coast Guard. We have to have a boating accident we collect the data for them and provide that to the Coast Guard. And we have to have mandatory boating education or an education program. We've developed a mandatory education program back in 1993. So we've been implementing that for a while. But not every state has mandatory education, but Connecticut does. Okay. And there's a National Association of State Boating Law Administrators, and this group kind of works together. That's a nonprofit that works on the national level to make sure that they really assist the states in carrying out their mission for boating safety. And they do it through a few different ways. They help to pass policies so that there's uniform laws, and then they also provide education to the states so that they can be better at what they do.
Okay. So there's, each state has a boating law administrator?
Yes, yep. Every state has a boating law administrator, and then the territories also of the U.S.
Okay, all right. So, Mike, can you give us a little overview of how Connecticut differs from other states? What makes us fantastic?
Well, organizationally, there are many similarities in the makeup of the Bureau of Outdoor Recreation with other states' recreation divisions. I was fortunate to work with North Carolina State Parks for 21 years prior to coming to Connecticut. And here in Connecticut, we have a professional and dedicated workforce that manages our outdoor recreation resources. They care about the resources they manage, and they work very hard to provide outstanding customer services to the public. Although small in area, Connecticut provides a wealth of outdoor recreation opportunities for the public. With miles of Long Island Sound shoreline and hundreds of inland water bodies and water courses, the state can support virtually any water-based recreation imaginable. And with few exceptions, the same is also true for the land-based recreation opportunities. With over 255,000 acres of land in parks and forests, the state can support a variety of recreation opportunities on the public lands that we manage.
Okay, great. From the sound of it, with all the infrastructure that we have with it going on within the boating division, the pump outs, the boat launches, education, and Colonel, you talked about all of your tasks that you have to do within the state, to help support all of these projects and programs. What makes the Environmental Conservation Police so unique? Besides doing the hunting, what else do you guys do?
Our officers are fully certified police officers in Connecticut, so we do quite a bit of traditional law enforcement and criminal enforcement in our state parks. But along with that, our officers' primary mission is natural resource protection and natural resource law enforcement. So they have to have a very good understanding of Connecticut's fish and wildlife laws, and they also have to be specially trained to operate vessels, all-terrain vehicles, and things like that. We have a boating accident reconstruction unit that goes out to scenes of serious and fatal boating accidents and works those cases. We have a chemical immobilization team that goes to threats when we have bear or deer that are causing a public safety issue. And a good example is our canine unit. We have 5 canine officers and their partners, and all are trained in evidence detection and search and rescue, but 3 are also specially trained in fish and wildlife detection. So while a local or state police have a canine unit that does tracking and things like that, ours are specially trained for fish and wildlife detection. So that's what makes us unique and specialized.
So do you guys, besides all the fish and game and hunting and boating and tranquilizing bears if necessary, do you guys have to stop anyone on the highway or the local street or anything like that?
While our mission is pretty, we try to stay with conservation law enforcement and natural resource protection, but if there's a public safety issue, like a DWI, someone driving under the influence or reckless driving, our officers are authorized and encouraged to make that motor vehicle stop for public safety.
Okay, wow, that's a lot of work.
Yes.
Eleanor, can we just talk about some of the trends in boating? Colonel brought a few up, but maybe you could just talk about some of the other trends that you're seeing within the state.
All right. Nationally, what's happening is pretty much mimics what's happening in Connecticut. alcohol is still an issue. Right now, alcohol, and when we say alcohol use, it's, say, a fatality involves alcohol is kind of what we're thinking of. Right now, about 19% of the fatal accidents, 19% of the accidents nationally involve alcohol. We're seeing that when we look at fatalities, we see that about 27% of the fatalities involve alcohol. And while that's like 27%, that's more than a quarter of our accidents involve alcohol. So we know that's one thing that we need to concentrate on in trying to convey to the public how dangerous that can be. But we're quite proud of the fact that if we look at the last 5 years, the alcohol rate was 56%, was 56% of the accidents or the fatalities involved alcohol. So we've come down 44%. So if we look 10 years, take a 10-year span. If we look at 5 years and then 5 years, in that 5 years, in that 10-year span, we've brought it down to 27%. That's a 44% decrease. So while we're doing really good, we still need to make sure that we let folks know how dangerous alcohol is. So, alcohol is one issue. The other thing is drowning is still a major problem nationally, and it's a major problem in Connecticut. Last year, or for the last 2 years, we had 10 boating fatalities from drowning, and none of them had life jackets. And we know that none of them were wearing life jackets. And we know that if people are wearing life jackets, there's a really good chance that they will survive. So, our point is to let people know how important these are. And with the life jackets nowadays, really easy to wear. I mean, they have the belt packs and they have the suspender type inflatables. So it's easy for people to wear life jackets. So we certainly recommend that. And, just another point on that is it seems as if once you end up out of the boat, your chances for not surviving increase a lot. You would think that the fatalities are related to, high-speed crashes and things like that. But when we look at fatalities, and the whole thing is to minimize risk, we see that the high-speed collisions really, if in the last 10 years, accounted for 5% of the fatals. But if you look at when people fall out of boats or swamp their boats, that accounts for 36% of our boating fatalities. So you can see that it's not that high-speed crash that's causing it. It's really just people falling out of the boats and not having life jackets on. So, those are some of the major trends.
Do people have to wear their life jackets when they're on a boat?
There's certain times that they do. So anybody operating a personal watercraft or a jet ski, they have to wear life jackets. And it's interesting because those are not the folks that are dying. It's the other folks that are not, that are in other boats. And so if somebody's towing a water skier, the people in the water that are being towed, they're required to wear life jackets. And then the other group that's required is paddlers in manually propelled vessels would have to wear one from October 1 through May 31st.
Okay, wow, that's a good amount of information. It makes me want to wear my life jacket all the time. So, Mike, I'd like to just switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about some parks a little bit. I think we have a slide for the park's website that we're going to bring up. And if you just want to talk a little bit of what people might see when they visit our park's website.
Absolutely. The park's webpage is the main source of information for the public, and there's a wealth of information available on this site. The site gives you the historical context of the State Parks Division, the history of state parks in Connecticut. One of the tools that I like on the website is you can actually search by activity, and we talked a little bit about the unique recreation activities that Connecticut offers. Well, you can search by that on the website, and you'll be able to find an area. So, for example, if you want to go biking, you choose that activity, and that will bring you to all the opportunities, all the parks and forests that would allow you to do that in Connecticut. There's information on campground reservations, volunteer opportunities. We depend on volunteers to assist us in many of our parks, and it's a great way to sign up and to be active in your local park. There's information on the No Child Left Inside program. There will be some upcoming events this summer, and so definitely go to the webpage to learn about all the activities that are occurring in parks. But it's it's a great source of information for anything state parks.
Great, yeah. I think I just saw one of those No Child Left Insides that happened earlier in February. I think some of our
Absolutely.
boating staff was there as well.
Yeah, we had a fantastic event for the Winter Festival at Burr Pond State Park. I had a number of families come out and enjoy the park and had a great time.
Great. It's a great looking website. So, Eleanor, I want to, Parks has such a great website. I know boating does too. Would you like to talk a little bit about the boating website?
Sure, I would love to do that. So Parks has had a great website for a while. We've just revamped our website. I'm really pretty excited about it. We have information now on all of our classes, so if somebody wants to take a class, they can go and click on it and find a class. We also have information about our new program, which is the Safe Water Skiing Endorsement. You can find information about that. And one of the newest things we've added, which I think is going to be really helpful to people and is going to bring a lot of people to the website, is more information on weather and tides, and information that's going to be really helpful if you're out there boating and you need to know that we have information on winds, lots of additional information that boaters, it's now all in one place. So we invite you to come check that out. We also have these great interactive maps that you can check out for finding boat launches throughout the state and also all our pump out facilities. So there's a lot of information on there, and we encourage people to come and check it out.
So on these interactive maps, I can search for them, by town, or there's a map?
Yep, so there's a map. You can check by town, and you could just check also by, if you know a certain boat launch, you can just go directly there, or you can, if you know a general area that you want to boat in now, you could just look at the map and click on it, and it will bring you to the site. And once it brings you to the site, it tells you what the laws are for that water body and how many parking spaces we have if we have a state boat launch there. So it's a lot of information.
Awesome. So this past weekend I went up to the boat show that's up in Hartford, and I picked up my 2017 copy of the Boater's Guide. And right in the middle of the Boater's Guide there was this huge, fantastic map that showed all of boat launches and pump out facilities, and there it is. Okay. So how did this come about? Because I think this is a great resource.
Yeah, this is pretty exciting. We were kind of, or I should say I was nervous about having it all together, but I think it's worked out really well. Mark Chansky from our division asked to be able to put all this information on one map, and I think it's really going to work out well. And so it shows where all the state boat launches are, and if there's a place that has a water body but no state boat launch, it'll be a different color, and you can then find what regulation applies to that water bodies. It also shows all the state boat launch, all the pump out facilities, and even our newer boating infrastructure facilities. So it's going to come in really handy.
Well, this map really does show a lot of the resources that we have in Connecticut for boating, a lot of the work, again, that NCON has to do. So, Colonel, I just want to switch gears a little bit and talk about what kind of boating violation trends have you seen over the past year or 5 years or even more?
We're still finding quite a few boaters not having the required personal flotation devices either on their vessel or wearing them when they should be. Our officers recognize the importance of having them on board and wearing them when they're supposed to. And so our officers check for that quite often, and it is still a fairly common violation, which is surprising based on the amount of outreach and education both our program and the boating division does regarding that. So that's still a concern for us, especially with opening day of fishing season coming up. We have it's a cold water time still, and fishermen are in smaller boats in our smaller bodies of water, and we encourage and it's mandated that they wear their life jackets then. So that's still a common violation. We're still finding people not having their personal watercraft certificate, which is again surprising since the amount of outreach and education we've done toward that. One thing we do work on, even though we don't make a lot of cases every year, but we do an initiative for boating under the influence. We do both patrol initiatives, and we work at nationally for with the national initiative for boating under the influence, which is Operation Dry Water. We participate every year along with quite a few cities and towns. So while that's an enforcement initiative, it's also a public outreach initiative to try and educate the public on the dangers of boating while drinking.
So this Operation Dry Water, is this something that we just do in the state, or is it a specific date where it's like national or
No,
regional? Or?
It's a national initiative. It's usually the second or third weekend in June. So it's nationwide, and not only does our agency become involved in Connecticut, but quite a few local and the state police and the U.S. Coast Guard get involved in Connecticut also. So it's a team effort in the state to not only crack down on drunk boaters, but also get the word out about the dangers of boating under the influence.
Okay. All right, so I just want to take a last few minutes here and talk about our last thought of the day. So Eleanor, would you like to give us your last thoughts?
All right. Well, for one thing, we really hope that you'll join us again with this new endeavor that we have. We're pretty excited about it. We will be doing some filming out in the field, perhaps to show people how to back their trailer. I mean, we want to make this really helpful for the boaters, better boating in Connecticut. So we know that boating is serious fun, and we invite you all to get out on the water, have fun, and be safe.
Thank you. Mike, any last thoughts?
Well, yeah, we are so fortunate here in Connecticut to have outstanding natural resources, from the beautiful beaches of Long Island Sound to the inland waterways to parks with magnificent vistas. The state offers many opportunities to get outside and enjoy the outdoors. So we encourage the public to go outside and discover for themselves the diverse beauty and recreational opportunities that Connecticut has to offer.
Fantastic. Colonel.
Sure. We like to think that we improve the quality of life for the citizens of Connecticut who recreate in our state, but we also like to ask their help in helping us with our mission by reporting a violation, whether it's a fish and wildlife violation or a boating violation, to our dispatch center. We have a 24-hour dispatch center. We have an 800 number. It's toll-free. It's published in the Boater's Guide. It's published in the Hunting and Fishing Guides, and it's on our website. So if the public sees a violation, we really appreciate their assistance when they call in with that violation to help us with our mission.
Great, thank you. So I want to thank you all for joining us. If you have any questions or want to continue any of these conversations, please call the boating division or join us on our social media sites. And happy boating.